Hello and welcome back. It's a really sunny day, Wednesday. It's good. And I've just finished, Rainbow Rowell's slow dance. And I was wrong. Last week when I was saying I wasn't enjoying it, I read the first 150 pages and it felt too samey and the characters got on my nerves. And I think it was probably because they were too familiar, in the sense that they feel like people I know. Not that they're like people I've met or been friends with, maybe in part. I think we've lived through the same years. There's that as well when you read a book in which the characters are more or less your age and they've lived through the same times, the same generation. But there's something in this as well about earned emotion, and that's very strong. I remember feeling the same with David Nicholls' One Day, that all of the strong emotions were earned by the end of it. There was a reason the whole thing was at such a pitch of intensity and feeling, and eventually you discover why. I find this very moving. It's about a couple who know each other from being in their early teens, and they're best friends, and they seem as if they're going to know each other their whole lives. And all their friends, a couple of closer friends in particular, one closer friend in particular, is waiting for them to get together. And it kind of doesn't happen. They have a weekend of being lovers when they're students. So when she's a student, he's away in the Navy and he comes back for one weekend. But it also seems like something where they're getting it out of their system. All of the tension between them, the attraction between them. And then it's years, it's in their early 30s when they meet again at the mutual friend's wedding. The book is bookended by weddings. And in the first one, she won't dance. And by the last one, by the very end, she does dance. And it's a very touching moment. There's lots of touching moments throughout this. The family around them is so well drawn. They're working class. They're properly working class, American working class. Now, often in American movies and books, we see people who are really well off. We get used to that. These are people who are living on Wonder Bread and tuna fish, and living in circumstances that seem more familiar to British people in some ways, I think. The rougher edge of town, maybe, we go back to. It's in Omaha, in Nebraska. And people are fighting and scrapping in the street. There's a lovely bit where his family end up in his girlfriend's front lawn fighting. They pull up in a car and there's a scrap, and everyone's embarrassed. All that stuff is fantastic. It's so well observed. The mothers on both sides are brilliantly done. And that's when the book comes to life, I think, when they come in and the kids are fully drawn. Shiloh has these two kids under 6 years old, and they're so brilliantly conjured, and they're so not difficult exactly, but they're just they're taking up lots of her attention, as they would do. And the terrible ex-husband, and these slightly racy mothers on both sides who have their own rackety lives and their own checkered pasts and their own houses loaded with stuff they've hoarded. Late on, he's got to empty his mother's house. Carey has to empty his mother's house, and it's a grubby and intense job with all of his other relatives scavenging from the skip as he works. Everything falls to him. all the responsibilities. And that's very touching as well, as we watch him deal with it all and manage everything. And that's where he reminds me of an Ann Tyler hero. As I said before, he really reminds me of characters in books like Saint Maybe. And it has that same feeling of time and people living in houses that they've lived in for years and generations moving on. There's a grace to that I recognise from Ann Tyler. Maybe it's just a feature of the kind of genre. It's a family, a novel of families and generations. There's a bit right at the end where she talks about, the best days and memories and wanting the future to be good for both of them. Where she says, this is in the scene where they dance together at their wedding, spoilers there. And she says, or the narrator says, Sheila closed her eyes tight. She bit her lip. She imagined herself holding him at every moment she had known him, like a pearl-ended pin stuck through time and space. I want to remember this day, she whispered, but I also want to have so many good days that this one gets lost in the plethora. Kerry, I want to make you so happy that all your happy memories run together. I want the rest of your life to be a bright gold streak. He pulled away to lower his eyebrows at her. Sheila, I'm not going to forget our wedding day. I hope you do, she said fiercely. I'm going to make you feel so consistently good that the days lose specificity. Sorry, I'm coughing on dust. I think I must have moved a pile of books just before I did this. And I just love that. I love that exchange. The idea of a pin stuck through years is really touching, I think. Anyway, so I've really enjoyed it. I've read it slowly and thought about it a lot. I love the way she moves backwards and forwards in time, because it's not logical. Every now and again we get a flashback chapter, and it could come from any point in their past, and that's very much the way that memory works as well. And so at the end, we get this wonderful coda going back to them as teens, which makes them feel even more destined. Now, all of this sounds almost sentimental, but as I said, it's earned emotion by the end of it, I think. Yep, so it was great. Well done, Rainbow Rowell. I was so pleased. Because I loved Scattered Showers so much last year, and I was disappointed when I began this and I wasn't enjoying it enough. And it's unreasonable to put such stress on our favourite writers and stress on ourselves to enjoy things more. Sometimes we just have to forget the expectations and take our time and let a book settle in and let ourselves settle into the book. Which goes back to my initial stuff on this channel about reading slowly, not falling for the hype, enjoying what you enjoy, and letting a book settle in. Don't try and blaze through them. That's not what books are about. It's not even what short stories are about. These are things to make us slow down. They intend to mess about with time. That's what fiction does. Time slows us down. Sorry, time in fiction slows us down. We can put it on pause, which we can't do in real life. And I think in some ways that's why I love reading fiction. It's a way of clawing time back and being able to return to the past. That's what it is, I think. And that's not necessarily sentimental. It seems vital and living when it's happening. There's stuff that went on in the past that kind of repays study. It repays visiting. And novels allow us to do that. Okay, that's me spending a bit more time just talking about one particular book. I saw somebody on YouTube yesterday talking about her frustration that so much YouTube stuff that she was doing and that she was seeing was people just racing through piles of things they'd bought, piles of things they intended to read, and she'd not seen a video in which somebody sat and talked about one book for 10 minutes even. And I thought, yeah, that have I done that recently? I don't think I'm racing through things at all. But I did want to spend 10 minutes talking about Slow Dance and telling you how much I liked it. I don't know if it'll make my top 10 by the end of the year. It might do, but there's still some good things coming up that I know I'll be reading in the next few months. So we'll see. Okay, I'll say goodbye and I'll see you all again soon in the next episode. Goodbye.